Why the Snyderverse failed. I can think of a couple of reasons. I can think of a couple. So this new video from Bullets and Blockbusters came out a couple of days ago, and I was going to react to it because if you're like me, I didn't really enjoy the Snyderverse overall. Granted, I really liked Man of Steel, but as soon as we got to Batman v Superman, I was just like, what are we doing? And granted, if you loved the Snyderverse, good on you. I'm really happy for you. I'm glad you got loads of enjoyment out of it. For me, it was just a bit of a mess, and I know Snyder's true vision of the Justice League films being 3 parts bloody blah blah wasn't realised, but it's 2025, guys. This film came out in 2017. The Snyder Cut came out in 2021, if I remember correctly. It's time to move on. We've got a new Superman on the way. Let's get over it. But, you know, it's really good to see, you know, some critiques made about the Snyderverse and how mainly Warner Brothers messed it up. But I do have to say, Snyderverse people, the minority of them, are just fucking weirdos, man. Hello and welcome to another That's Joe video. My name's Joe and that's about it, but that's not about it. Today we're reacting to a new video from Bullets and Blockbusters called Why the Snyderverse Failed. But before we get into the reaction, I want to talk about this Reddit post. This was posted on the Snyder Cut forum on Reddit by TrickyFood5757. Stand up and fight for Snyderverse on July 11th. Now, obviously that's referring to the release of James Gunn's upcoming Superman movie, which I'm very excited for, and everyone should be excited for a fresh interpretation of something, but also, you know, honouring the past, what's come before. And again, you know, if there's any hardcore Snyderverse fans that speak like this in the comments right now watching this, look, I'm glad you like it, but there is no need to go this far. Fight for our Snyderverse on the imposter Superman release day. Here's what we can do to make a difference. Step 1, post spoilers everywhere. People are less likely to see or enjoy the movie if it's already spoiled. Okay, I just won't go on the internet. I could do that, I think. Step 2, leave bad rating on review sites. You all do that anyway. You do that for every single DC related film. We know for sure gun bots, that's what I am apparently, a gun bot, will post fake positive reviews, so we must let people know the truth and balance the bias out with realistic scores. But you're just categorically saying to just leave bad reviews even if you haven't seen it. What are you on about? And free, reserve tickets online, but don't complete the purchase. By selecting and reserving tickets, it gets taken out of the pool for a period of time, which means this has a chance of stopping gun bots from buying tickets. I mean, these people are insane. Actually insane. Wow. Gunn fired the first shot and killed the Snyderverse, and here is our chance to take the fight back to him. Restore the Snyderverse. If we can have our Superman, if we can't have our Superman, no one can. What the fuck? I really hope the person that posted this is watching this video, because you're weird, man. You are so weird. You are the biggest weirdo in the Snyder cult. And there's even been Snyderverse fans coming out reposting this and saying, yeah, this is a little bit too far. Just weird. Get over it. Get over it, man. There are so many different fresh interpretations of characters and universes in the last 20 years, and this, the Snyderverse, is what you're fighting for? It wasn't everyone's cup of tea. It really wasn't. It wasn't my cup of tea. But a lot of audiences just didn't respond to the Snyderverse. They really didn't. I still think Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice is really bad. Granted, it has one of the best Batmans in it, but it's not a great film. It really isn't. Justice League, either the original Snyder Cut or the Joss Whedon version or whatever version, they're not good. The vision for Justice League and the DCU going forward wasn't appealing. It really wasn't, and Warner Brothers had to do something about it. And granted, there was a lot of tragedies that happened during the production of Justice League, which I feel so sorry for Zack Snyder in particular for, you know, like going through all that. But then you have these guys, and it's just weird. Weirdos. Anyway, let's get reacting to this video from Bullets and Blockbusters. I love this channel. Go and subscribe to them if you can. So many interesting videos. Yeah, do it.
The idea was simple: take DC's legendary heroes and build a cinematic universe to rival Marvel's. With Man of Steel, Warner Bros. Launched what they hoped would be the foundation of a billion-dollar franchise. They had Christopher Nolan producing, Zack Snyder directing.
I always forget Christopher Nolan produced Man of Steel. I really do.
And Superman, the most iconic superhero of all time, as their starting point. But by the time Justice League limped into theaters, it was clear the grand experiment had gone off the rails. So how did it all go wrong? To find out, let's take a look at how the Snyderverse failed. While brainstorming ideas for The Dark Knight Rises, writer David Goyer hit a creative wall. So he shifted focus and began reimagining a new take on Superman, framing...
I mean, fair play on Goyer, like, you know, kind of bringing Superman, kind of embedding the Dark Knight trilogy tone to Man of Steel, and it's slightly worked, but mostly didn't. Again, I love Man of Steel. I think it's a really good comic book movie. I think it's one of the best out there, and I think the interpretation of Superman is great, but it's definitely not the one I expected, and I do feel like Gunn Superman and the Christopher Reeve Superman are kind of more akin to the comic and everything. So, but you know, you got to take risks, especially back then. You know, when everyone wanted their superhero films to be like The Dark Knight. Like, let's be honest.
Framing the story around a bold question: what would really happen if a godlike alien arrived on Earth? When Christopher,
I mean, that's the question. You know, Nolan and Goyer asked about Batman Begins, and I've got a video coming up soon about that. Like, what if Batman was real? But it works more that way because he's 100% human. So working on all the alien elements and everything must have been a nightmare.
Christopher Nolan asked Goyer what he had come up with for the next Batman film. Goyer instead pitched him the Superman concept. Nolan was so taken with the idea that he immediately called Warner Brothers and struck a deal to produce the film, with Goyer writing the script. Nolan, uninterested in directing another superhero film, began to look for a director. And while Nolan considered directors like Tony Scott, Zack Snyder was ultimately chosen, partly in response to the criticism leveled at Superman Returns for its lack of action and more restrained visual style.
I still think Zack Snyder was like the perfect director for Man of Steel. His style, his visual style, suited that movie's story and tone really well. It's just everything after that just didn't quite hit.
Snyder, known for his bold, stylized visuals in films like 300 and Watchmen, offered a completely different approach. His signature style promised exactly what Nolan felt the previous film lacked. With Superman's extraordinary powers demanding a sense of scale and spectacle, Snyder's approach promised a film that would deliver the visual impact and intensity fans had been missing.
How long does it take you to plan a site
Oh
structure?
great, we have an ad. Fucking brilliant. I love you, YouTube. Not.
The answer is too long.
However, Snyder's approach would later spark controversy for going too far. The climactic battle between Superman and Zod sees much of Metropolis reduced.
I don't mind the battle, to be honest. I think it was great character development, especially in the next one, to kind of go, you know, this is the effect Superman has in this universe and everything, and this went horribly wrong. But, you know, it also showed how powerful Zod was. He was as powerful as Superman, but was evil. So I don't mind the final battle that much, to be honest.
Reduced to rubble, with massive collateral damage and countless implied civilian casualties, something many viewers felt was out of step with the character's values.
I mean, I kind of agree with that in some way. I do find this Superman less optimistic and hopeful, and it was a bit more gritty and it was more dangerous. Again, that Batman formula doesn't quite work with Superman till it's to its full effect.
Originally, Zod was meant to be pulled back into the Phantom Zone, but Snyder found that resolution unsatisfying and pushed for a darker ending, where Superman kills him. Christopher Nolan strongly opposed the idea and didn't even want the scene to be written, but Snyder and Goyer proceeded anyway.
Again, this is a bit of a weird one for me. I kind of like it and I kind of don't like it. It was a shock when I initially saw it and I was like, whoa. But then my afterthought was he's going to learn from that. And he sort of does. He sort of does. But it would have been great if there was a second Man of Steel instead of a Batman v Superman film. God, they rushed that so fast. That it would have been great to see Superman coming to terms with what he did, but also trying to make sure he doesn't kill people. Like, that would have been cool, man. But we'll never get it. We'll never get it now.
crafting a scenario where Superman has no choice but to kill Zod to save an innocent family, resulting in Nolan ultimately giving it the go-ahead.
I mean, he could have put his arm around his eyes. Just saying.
Regardless, it still ignited backlash, with many fans feeling that Superman, meant to be a symbol of hope, was acting in a way that felt out of step with the core of the character. While the action in the film was praised for its spectacle, the film as a whole was criticized for its somber tone, muted color palette, and a brooding, emotionally burdened portrayal of Superman. Snyder...
I mean, what you have to remember, my exposure to Superman was Superman Returns, really. And going into Man of Steel, I was like, this is a bit different, but it's cool and gritty and everything. Again, I think it's a great film, but I do think it kind of misstepped in some areas. Not all the obvious choices, but I completely agree with the tone, the actual colour palette of the film was really muted. But hey.
Snyder was at the heart of the criticism, with some arguing he didn't fully understand the character, a criticism that was also leveled at his adaptation of Watchmen, with him prioritizing style over substance.
No, I think Zack understood the character. He just wanted to bring it to a modern day audience and have a character with complexities and... Well, he's an alien, isn't he? So it was just all that, really.
As Snyder began developing a sequel to Man of Steel, Warner Brothers, disappointed that the film hadn't become the cultural juggernaut on par with Nolan's Dark Knight films they were hoping for, pushed for him to expand his vision. Snyder had explored the idea of including Batman in Man of Steel 2, and with the studio eager to launch their own version of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they pressured him to move forward with Batman as the film's antagonist. Instead of a proper sequel to Man of Steel, Snyder pivoted to Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice, a film that not only introduced Batman, but also crammed in Wonder Woman and laid the groundwork for the Justice League.
Still a cool shot. Still a cool shot. Still a moment in comic book movie history, this. But yeah, Batman v Superman was a piece of shit. It wasn't good, guys. I don't say, oh, but the Ultimate Edition is so much better. It's like 30 more minutes of material that kind of just... like structures the story a little bit better, and you kind of understand why certain things are happening, like that guy getting branded and murdered and everything. That just explained it a little bit more. But I tell you what, I you know being the gun shill, I'll be honest, like I do go back and probably watch this movie once or twice a year. It's quite an easy watch. This it's long, the normal version. But I just go back and I'm like, can I find anything new out of it? And I have. I found the music really good. Again, the cinematography, I always catch something new. But again, it's just by the end of it, I'm just like, oh, I know what's coming next. And it's called Justice League. Either version. It's, yeah.
League. Snyder and Nolan briefly considered placing Man of Steel within the same universe.
Hell no.
As Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, but ultimately decided it wouldn't work. Nolan felt his grounded, realistic take on Batman left little room for a character like Superman to exist naturally. As
Get your bloody fingers away from there. This was so many years ago, but keep it away. Don't ever touch the Dark Knight trilogy. Don't Michael Keaton Flash the Dark Knight trilogy, please.
As a result, they chose to recast Batman. The problem was, by choosing to start the universe from scratch, DC gave up the early lead it had over Marvel. Batman Begins hit theaters 3 years before Iron Man, but instead of building on Nolan's successful foundation, they hit the reset button, just as Marvel was gaining unstoppable momentum. David Goyer, who had written Man of Steel, completed an initial draft of the BVS script, but once Ben Affleck was cast as Batman, he pushed for his Argo collaborator Chris Terrio to do a rewrite, unhappy with Goyer's version. Initially, Terrio and
I'm sorry, but Terrio is just not... I don't know what good writing is. I don't know what bad writing is. But visually, when I see on the screen this and The Rise of Skywalker, it's just like... Yeah, I don't know. Just, yeah.
Snyder wanted to call the film either Justice League Foundations or Justice League Rising, but the studio insisted it be titled Batman vs. Superman, looking to capitalize on the epic match.
Yeah, that's how you capitalize. That's how you market a film especially when not enough people went to see Man of Steel.
Matchup between the two heroes. By pitting Batman against Superman, Warner Brothers expected Avengers-level box office returns, and perhaps they would have gotten it if Christian Bale returned to the role, but he didn't. And with Superman facing off against a Batman audiences weren't yet familiar with, the film underperformed. Critics and audiences alike slammed it for its dark tone and sluggish pacing. Aside from the gripping opening and the standout warehouse fight where Batman rescues Martha Kent, much of the film felt dull and overstuffed. The climactic showdown between Batman and Superman was widely seen as underwhelming, with the Martha Epiphany, a Terrio contribution,
I don't need to talk about that.
eliciting laughs and groans from many audience members. And Superman's death, just one film after his introduction, felt rushed and
That was so rushed. The death of Superman in movie 2. Just like, what are you doing? Like, oh god.
earned, something Nolan also initially opposed.
You're not going to believe this.
It just sounds like Chris Nolan was just right about all of his oppositions and everything.
I just used this free agreement finder, and in under a minute, it showed me how many car finance agreements I had between 2014 and 2021.
Wait, really? That fast?
Yep, over 800.
Ask any fan who runs Marvel Studios, and they'll immediately say Kevin Feige, a producer who's become nearly as famous as the heroes he oversees. DC, by contrast, has suffered from a revolving door of leadership guiding its cinematic universe. Christopher Nolan initially brought Man of Steel to Warner Brothers and helped oversee its development, but once the film was completed, he stepped away, leaving Zack Snyder to take on a larger role. Snyder not only directed Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, and was now planning to shoot a sprawling trilogy of Justice League films, but also played a key role in shaping the broader DC casting major characters like Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Cyborg, and The Flash. At one point, Snyder even pitched a standalone Wonder Woman film set during the Crimean War, before screenwriter Alan Heinberg came aboard and reworked it into the version audiences.
Wonder Woman is a class film, by the way. It's a very good film. I really like it. I fucking hate Gal Gadot, but I really do like Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman 1984, that's a whole different story.
Eventually saw. To put Snyder's level of control into perspective, imagine if Iron Man director Jon Favreau had not only cast every major Avenger, but also directed all 4 Avengers films, oversaw the direction of the entire MCU, and shaped the tone and trajectory of every hero's story arc. It sounds absurd, but that's essentially the role Snyder assumed, almost by default. As filming began on the first of 3 Justice League films, Batman vs Superman hit theaters. But as the negative reception rolled in, Warner Brothers started to get cold feet. Marvel had laid the groundwork for the Avengers with 5 standalone films, including critical and commercial hits like Iron Man and solid performances from Thor and Captain America. Even with mixed reactions to The Incredible Hulk and Iron Man 2, Marvel's Phase 1 proved you need consistently good films to build a successful cinematic universe. DC, by contrast, had failed to gain the same momentum. Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, and Suicide Squad, which Warner Brothers heavily meddled with, all underperformed, whether critically, commercially, or both. If audiences and critics weren't responding to these,
it was just such a weird time. It was a weird time when these films came out, because I was going to the cinema watching them both, Batman v Superman and Suicide Squad, and I was just not enjoying them. I was just like, what? This is the first time I've not enjoyed films in the cinema, and get upset how much money I spent on popcorn and the tickets and everything. So it was a weird time, and there was so much going on in the ether, just like, what the hell are we gonna do? Like, how is the DC universe going to continue? What direction is it going to take? And they tried, I think, a couple of times to fix it, but
these movies, why would anyone be excited for what came next? Snyder had already struck out twice, and now he was shooting part 1 of a massive 3-part epic that Warner Brothers feared no one wanted to see. Not only that, but DC's universe was
correct.
rushed in an effort to catch up to Marvel. Marvel, by contrast, took the time to introduce each hero to audiences in their own standalone adventure before teaming everyone up in Avengers, whereas DC only gave standalone films to Superman and Wonder Woman prior to Justice League, which then had the arduous task of having to introduce Aquaman, Cyborg, and Flash in the same.
Jeez. Yeah, I mean, it's the obvious mistake that they made. They were impatient, really impatient.
Following the poor reception of Batman vs Superman, Warner Brothers finally recognized they needed their own Kevin Feige, and Zack Snyder to them wasn't it. In response, the studio created DC Films, a new division meant to centralize creative control of the franchise, mirroring Marvel's structure under Feige. Jeff Johns, DC's chief creative officer, and Warner Brothers executive John Berg were appointed to co-lead the division and steer the DCU in a more crowd-pleasing direction. One of their first moves was to overhaul Suicide Squad, injecting more humor, flashy pop.
This is when the problem started, was with Suicide Squad, when they tried to make it more like Deadpool. That's an actual quote, to make it more fun and energetic. David Ayer's version of Suicide Squad is probably the one I would have wanted to see over the Snyder Cut, because I think there's actually more to it than meets the eye, and I do believe him. But again, guys, it's time to move on. If I can move on, you can move on too.
Pop songs and a lighter tone in an attempt to mimic the success of Guardians of the Galaxy. Director David Ayer was ordered to perform extensive reshoots and re-edits using revised material from Jeff Johns, ultimately resulting in a theatrical cut that strayed dramatically from Ayer's darker, more character-driven original vision.
I mean, it was supposed to match the tone of Batman v Superman and Man of Steel and all that, and I completely get it, but yeah, they really did him over on that.
Even the climax to Wonder Woman was changed by Johns. Originally, Sir Patrick at the end wouldn't have turned into Ares, which would have served the theme of the film that humans are capable of pure evil, and it wasn't Ares that caused everyone to go to war. The studio mandated a big, CGI-heavy fight to cap off the movie, much to director Patty Jenkins' frustration. Justice League faced similar studio interference. Johns and Berg not only were on set to babysit Snyder, offering input on where and how to inject more humor into scenes, but in an effort to make the film more like the Avengers, Johns eventually brought in the man behind it, Joss Whedon, and had him rewrite much of the script, which
we all know Joss Whedon's a piece of shit, right? Piece of shit, but Avengers is a very good film. It's very good, but I don't think there was any way to retool this film to be more like the Avengers and everything. Justice League, just the story just wasn't captivating, I found anyway. It was very rushed. We were meeting new characters. The thing I will say about the Snyder Cut is that it developed Cyborg way more, and I really enjoyed Cyborg in the Snyder Cut more than our other characters, even with Snyder at the helm. And I think it's such a shame that Ray Fisher was pushed to the side, and I think he had his reasons for not letting that go and calling out Warner Brothers and certain people that it was a horrible environment to be in, and it's just not right. So yeah, Ray Fisher was also done dirty within the Snyderverse.
Snyder was forced to shoot. It soon became clear that Warner Brothers was giving Joss Whedon increasing control over Justice League. Initially brought in to rewrite parts of the script, Whedon's role quickly expanded, eventually directing portions of the film himself. Around this time, Snyder's daughter tragically passed away, leaving him emotionally devastated and without the energy to continue clashing with the studio. Ultimately, he stepped away from the project entirely, as Whedon...
I think Warner Brothers unfortunately used that to their advantage. I really do, to get Joss Whedon in. I think they used that to their advantage, and it's awful. It really is. It's awful. I think people don't think about what actually happens behind the scenes and everything. It's just loads of people shouting, I want Henry Cavill to suit up in his Superman suit, specifically the one from Man of Steel 2013. It's like, dude, it's like, I know you want the Snyderverse back and everything, but I don't even think Snyder wants to go back. I think he's even said he doesn't want to go back to this world. So if you did get your Snyderverse back, it wouldn't be with Zack Snyder. It wouldn't be a Snyderverse. And that's why the Gunverse is important, because it's got to do its own thing. If James Gunn came in and just had Henry Cavill do Man of Steel 2 and use the same tone, the same sort of cutting style, the same direction as Zack Snyder, you wouldn't be happy. Which is why it's important to have fresh interpretations of characters throughout the years. God, yeah, it's just I think it's just obvious that Snyder doesn't want to come back to this universe. And why would you, as a big fan of the Snyderverse, want him to be with these people again? Granted, like, there's different execs and everything at Warner Brothers now. It's completely changed, and now there's DC Studios. But why would you want him to get possibly embroiled in that again? Like, I don't know, it's weird. You got to just really think about it.
would take over. However, Whedon's extensive reshoots ultimately failed to deliver the results Warner Brothers had hoped for. Justice League underperformed both critically and commercially.
It had to be completely reshot. If they wanted a different Justice League film, they should have just reshot the whole thing and just delayed the film. I know they spent a lot of money and everything, so logistically that's not possible. But it's just like, yeah, I don't think it was a film that could be saved. It really wasn't. And when I say saved, by the way, I mean Warner Brothers, what they're wanting and everything. It just didn't work. And, you know, Snyder is a visionary and his Snyder Cut is very different, is very different. But you can see the elements of Snyder and Whedon in that Justice League film. You can. And it's a bit of a Frankenstein monster, but a very obvious Frankenstein monster.
Falling far short of expectations. In the aftermath, both John Berg and Jeff Johns exited their roles at the studio, marking a clear sign that the attempted course correction had backfired. With Snyder gone, the DC Universe stumbled forward with mixed results. Walter Hamada took over a mapped-out vision of his own, one that would culminate in a Crisis on Infinite Earths adaptation. But the path to get there was anything.
I mean, yeah. Crisis on Infinite Earths. I mean, that is catching up to Marvel's multiverse and everything. So they were starting to come in line, I don't know, man, but I feel like two separate universes, cinematic universes, should be doing their own thing and their way of storytelling and everything. It's just a bit, and that's the problem. The market is really saturated now, and that's my hope with Superman and Fantastic Four, that they're just such different films and just concentrate on themselves instead of the universe around them. So we just can't get into that pickle again.
But clear. Alongside the Snyderverse films were elsewhere films like Joker and the Batman that didn't exist in the same universe, further confusing audiences.
Yeah.
Planned films like Ben Affleck's Batman were quietly shelved, while others like Batgirl were infamously written off for tax purposes.
# release Batgirl. Release it. I just want to see it. I don't know if it's good or not. I just want to see it. It's so annoying. I will die and not see Batgirl. It's so annoying. Yeah. Fuck.
Purposes. Meanwhile, during the production of Black Adam, Dwayne Johnson attempted a behind-the-scenes power grab to center the DC universe around it.
I did like Black Adam. I can't lie. I really liked Black Adam. I thought it was really funny, actually, really good. I thought The Rock was a bit of an eyesore because it's The Rock. But overall, I really liked the direction of it. I kind of liked not what it was setting up, but just that world it was building and its sort of self-contained Black Adam verse. And then Henry Cavill steps out of the shadows, which I'm sure he'll get into now.
His character, a move that ultimately backfired. After Discovery completed its acquisition of Warner Media, the studio once again began searching for their own Kevin Feige, the creative lead to unify the brand and bring order to the chaos. They eventually landed on Guardians of the Galaxy director James Gunn, who made the bold decision to reboot the universe entirely, bringing the Snyderverse to a definitive end. At the very least, Snyder was able to complete his vision for the first chapter of his planned Justice League trilogy with the release of the Snyder Cut, but it ultimately left us with a universe defined not by what it achieved, but by what could have been. Thanks for watching, everybody, and don't...
But again, I think what could have been wasn't satisfying for me, but I think for a majority of general audiences as well. I love the decision that Gunn is co-CEO of DC Studios. It's great to have a filmmaker in that position who understands what it's like to make a film and write scripts and everything. And then you have Peter Safran as producer, who produced a lot of the Snyderverse movies. But it's good. I am looking forward to the new DC universe. Am I sad to see the DC EU go? No, because I remember seeing Wonder Woman 1984. I was like, oh my God, this just needs fresh interpretation. Granted, we had the Batman, which is Elseworlds, Joker. They were great films, they're Elseworlds, but if they're wanting to build a cinematic universe, it had to change. It had to change. I mean, I'm one of those few people, maybe half people, that want to see Robert Pattinson's Batman join the DCU, but I don't think it's going to happen. So, yeah, it's a weird time, and I do feel sorry for Zack. I really do. I feel really sorry for him. And this is a great video, by the way. Again, Bullets and Blockbusters. go and subscribe to their channel. They have so many more interesting videos, like the original plans for Superman the movie, like so many little cool facts that you can kind of take as an icebreaker when you go to those awkward meals with your family, and they're just like, what a nerd. But yeah, really great video. Sad to see the Snyderverse go, in terms of the circumstances, but again, please, you Snyder cultists, stop this sort of shit. It's really weird. You're massive weirdos. And I'm not saying all you Snyder fans are like this. I know it's a minority, but oh my god, it's strange. Anyway, I've got my tickets for Superman, and a lot of people, especially children in my family, are really interested to see the Superman film, so they're excited, and that's really, really cool to hear. Anyway, what did you think of this video from Bullets and Blockbusters? What do you think of the Snyderverse ending and the new DCU chapter beginning very soon? Let me know in the comments below. Would love to hear your thoughts. Hope you enjoyed the video. Like the video if you enjoyed my reaction to this video, and subscribe to the channel. It really, really helps me out. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and remember, I'm a gun bot. No, that was rubbish.